So you've just graduated your exercise and sports science degree and you're pondering where to next. Now, there's a few schools of thought surrounding where you should go. Some people, like myself, have headed down the postgraduate path, a bit of research, PhD honours, whilst others elect to do some internships and get some more hands-on experience. Which one's better for your career path? Well, there's a couple of different sides to that story. In today's episode of TRIAX180, we're going to debate whether you should elect to go down the postgraduate path or elect to do some internships to advance your career. And it all starts right now. Let's go, boys. Welcome back to the TRIAX Performance channel. My name is Rob Delves, and as always, I'm joined by Sean Jessman and Damon Bednarski. Firstly, welcome to you, Sean.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Sean. Sean will be our adjudicator today, so he's pretty short on words, and his record looks pretty crap in the overall head-to-head. So welcome back, Sean. Thanks for taking the time out today. And then we've got Damo, of course, the head honcho. Hello to you, Damo.
How you going, Rob? Just a special shout out to Shawnee from filming in the back of his Falcon today. Great commitment to the cause here.
Yeah, any comments on that, Sean? That you'd like to quickly just tell us as to why you're in the back of a Falcon?
Oh, well, I'm all over the place today. I'm going between jobs and, got a little bit of spare time here, and I thought the staff in the Scopus staff room probably wouldn't appreciate me doing a bit of animated discussion about what we're about to discuss today. So I thought I'd better do it in the back seat of the car, and it's logistically not ideal, but, we make it work.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your commitment, Sean, so thank you very much. And it's a nice little segue into our topic today. So as we talked about from the top, we're discussing all things in terms of career advancement and career path, and in particular, what to do after you finish your undergraduate degree, particularly at a sports science level. So there's two schools of thought surrounding this in the industry at the moment. So there's one particular aspect where you can elect to do your postgraduate stuff, so masters, PhD, honours, all that sort of stuff, and also internships as well. So today we're going to be discussing those 2 points. I myself will be for the research or the further education path, and then my adversary today is Damo, and Damo is going to be arguing the internships. Aren't you, Damo?
That's correct, Rob.
Yeah, thanks very much, Damo. That's good. Damo's keeping his cards close to his chest, so hopefully he's got something more to offer than something more to offer in the arguments than what he has in the introduction. Sean, maybe you just want to quickly recap as to the rules of 180, if you can.
Yeah, so we take a contentious topic, and then two of us battle it out. Usually one takes one side, the other takes the other side, and then the remaining TRIAX member adjudicates and awards the winner. So we get 3 arguments, so 3 30-second rounds, and whoever's the winner at the end gets to go on a bit of a parade and
take the chocolates,
gallivant around, and bragging rights.
And so obviously Sean will adjudicate and decide today's winner, but there's also a bit of a fan vote as well. Like obviously, we all have our biases between each other, but there is a fan vote. So if you want to leave a comment below or on our various platforms, if you don't agree with the decision today, which if Damo wins, then you won't agree with that. So feel free to give us some feedback on that front. So if you're new to the 180 series, we've done a couple of these already. So if you want to go back and have a look at some of the episodes we've done on ice, small-sided games, aerobic capacity, then there's a few controversial episodes there that need to be seen to be believed. A few controversial results as well. So go back through and have a look at the channel. And there's also a lot of other content we've got for team sport performance. There's some MAS, yo-yos, sports tech as well. So Damo's dabbled in that field, looking at some smartwatch technology. So there's plenty of stuff going on if you want to have a look at it. And we'd urge you to consider subscribing to the channel and liking the content as well. If you get some value out of it, would mean a lot. So thank you very much. But now let's get stuck into it. All right, so round 1, here we go. I'm going to start off proceedings here. So my first argument, in life, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. Electing to complete further education may just provide you with the network opportunities you need to kickstart your dream career and get it in the right direction. If you elect to do postgraduate studies by research in particular, so honours or PhD, you are given a research supervisory team. Already off the bat, you've got probably 3 to 4 high-ranking university staff members on your side who have usually developed connections within the sector that you're actually researching and have those connections at the applied level, which is so vital, Damo.
Yeah, so key word you use there, Rob, is usually. So do you have experience of your academics or professors actually helping you out in the industry?
Yeah.
Academics and professors are a great resource as long as you're helping them get another citation. Once the writing dries up, they hang you out to dry, mate, and the next student comes along and keeps producing them free papers. If your goal is to work in an applied setting, getting your hands dirty and coaching, collecting real-world data, and working with athletes is what you should be doing, not sitting in a computer lab pondering which statistical test or research methodology to use.
Is that your argument, or is that like
that's my argument, mate? Yeah, that's my argument.
Right, well, anyway, so if I can give like a little bit of a preamble here, because I know Sean's waiting in the wings and he's listening to this. So if you have, if you go to the right university, have your right connections and all those networks and all that sort of stuff and the researchers, mate, then you get all that stuff in there. So like you get the opportunities to do all these hands-on practical activities. Like some people are fortunate enough to go to Doha, Qatar and help out with some FIFA projects and all that sort of stuff. So there are aspects there that you can get some applied experience pending, and obviously if you have the right supervisors. So the payoff is potentially huge in that regard, Damo.
Potentially. Over 3 years, how many days of practical experience would you get in a PhD?
Oh, well, if you're embedded, it depends. Like if you're embedded with an actual club, then obviously every day you're at the club is practical experience. If you're doing like a more research lab-based one, then your chances are you're probably working with individual athletes, not necessarily teams. So that can probably fluctuate a bit. But if you're doing an industry-based team sport one, then practical is all you know.
Yeah, and then if you're in a coursework master's, it's a similar thing. You might get 2 intensive weeks, the entire degree of practical experience, and the rest is theoretical coursework. So I don't think that argument of, embedded in real-world experience is actually true across the board for those postgraduate courses.
How's Rob banging on about how he's, I went to Doha, Qatar. I worked with FIFA. Just Rob's Mr. Worldwide. Let's start calling him Pitbull or something, because he's happy with himself, isn't he?
He's been sitting on that for a while. Yeah. Sean, I'm merely just pointing out the potential good things that can happen to you as a result of going down the further education path.
I think going into this debate, I knew this argument would come up, the networking, and I personally, my own sort of subjective views, that I'd sort of side with Damo's point of view. I think you can get more networking within the applied practical setting. But Damo, I think your argument just lacked a little bit of conviction, and Rob was more convincing. So I'm going to give round 1 to Rob.
Yes, that's the stats. That's what we want. Good start. Here we go.
I hope that falcon boils you, Shawnee.
Oh, here we go. There it is. So a jack of all trades within the exercise, sports science, strength and conditioning industry is a rare breed. If you complete an honours or a PhD, you are given invaluable research experience. The skills of facilitating and reporting upon experiments and collecting data is invaluable both at the applied and research levels. If your research is good enough and it can be submitted to a journal, you can further boost your experience and also your networks by having that international exposure that you can only get through publishing your research as a result of completing postgraduate education. Damo.
Yeah. Publishing a paper is not all that it's, cooked out to be. What do you get out of that other than having a citation on internet? Unless you're going to present that paper, which generally, if you're just coming out of honours or masters, it's going to be your supervisor that would go do that anyway. And in terms of the networking, you're going to go to that conference and that's it. The chances of actually seeing those people afterwards, I doubt that, unless you're going to stay in the research sector. If you're going to be in the applied sector, you'll be wanting to interact with coaches. So that my argument here is, so completing an internship or multiple internships provides you with the opportunity to develop real-world skills, practical skills. You get to use things such as an emotional intelligence, which a lot of lecturers and professors don't have, interpersonal and communication skills. You can't gain that in a classroom or in the computer lab. It's all well and good if you can write a great journal article, but if you don't know how to interact with or communicate your findings to key stakeholders, so coaches, athletes, CEOs, board members, what value does it actually add?
Interesting. There's a few things I could just tee off on that, I reckon, Damo. The first one's probably like, just the idea of an internship, mate. They're not all that good. Like, especially if it's a real basic one, like you don't really get that much experience. Like I'd rather publish a journal or to present at a conference or somewhere because you're in front of a lot of people. Like there's a lot. If you go to a journal, or sorry, if you go to a conference and you've got a lot of people you're presenting to, that's already like a lot more high profile people than what you get if you're picking up cones at wherever, an NPL club or a VFL club. So there's a pretty good exposure on that front if you can publish an article.
Yeah, I think there's pretty good exposure if you're doing a good internship too. I think if we're arguing here, it's about a graduate internship here rather than being an undergraduate. If you're picking an internship at this stage of your career where you're picking up cones and filling up water bottles, I think you might have made a little mistake there in terms of where you are. But in an internship, if you're a graduate, you're going to be in a position where you have skills, you've done internships before, you're going to be connecting with a lot of people, you're going to be at good organisations, you're going to be connecting with opposition staff that work at the club. I think you're going to get exposed to people that are in an area that you are more aligned with than in a research sector. If you want to be working hands-on, it's no good talking to the professor that's been working in a research lab for 25 years. You may as well talk to the coach that's been on the ground doing the coaching for the last 10 years.
But so what's interesting then, so before we get Sean in, because I know he's jumping, he's jumping to get in, but can you not have both? Like, can you not be the researcher who's also practical as well? Like, there's a lot of instances in that within our community that people that are practically based but have a stack of research. I
don't think you can be both at the same time, can you, Rob? There's too much pressure from the university to be a research person and publishing articles. You can't really be both, where you're working at the university getting that lovely academia life and then also working in an applied setting. There's just not enough hours in the day to produce the papers per year or get your PhD students to do it for you. And also work in the industry.
Absolutely slander. I'll get Sean in because this could go off pretty quickly. So hang on, I'll get Sean in.
All right. So that's actually a bit of an interesting argument that you both put forth there, because I've seen both sides of that actually. So I did an honours year, and then where it's just more research based, where I published a paper and that sort of thing, and then immediately afterward I went out and sought a couple of strength and conditioning internships. This is just me personally, so it's a little bit biased. Me personally, I got a lot more out of the internships than I did the honours year. I think we've spoken about it in the podcast episode about the sports science degrees, how there's a bit of a disconnect between research and the real world sort of environments and sort of what you do and what you're exposed to. And I think it's not always, research is sort of gold standard best practice, but that's not always practical in real world settings. So yes, there are benefits to doing research, and you can definitely get things out of that, and you can be exposed to different research methods and different skills and different people. But I think for me, you get a lot more out of internships and that real hands-on experience. So for round 2, I'm going to give the win to Damo.
Charity, absolute charity, I reckon. There you go. Maybe your problem, your Damo's problem, is that you're not like incorporating yourself with the right researchers and the right academics, and maybe it's the fact that you both stayed deacon too long.
Ooh.
Maybe you blokes need to see the light, and you should have head across the Westgate to the finest institution out in West, in Victoria University.
Well, I've already got 2 missing hubcaps in my car. I'd like to keep the other 2, so I don't think I'll head across the Westgate.
Mate, they wouldn't be touching your Falcon, mate. They'd probably leave it alone, I reckon.
I'm pretty happy with what my supervisors helped me with, Rob. I was a mixture of theoretical and practical, and that led to work at Cricket Victoria and future employment options. So I think the collaboration of people that actually work in the applied industry can actually get you applied work, not just continuing on in the research sector.
All right, so my final argument now goes back onto Damo. I'm going to hit him straight between the eyes. Trying to find a good internship is very, very difficult, believe me. It's very hard to actually find yourself a good placement. How many internships have all of you done, including Sean, where all you do is actually just the grunt work? So you're picking up cones, you're cleaning the squat racks, you're filling up water bottles. But are these tasks actually worth your time? Will they actually lead you somewhere? It's all well and good to do an internship and to say that you're actually at these places, but if they're not actually helping you develop, what's the point? I'd rather work towards my own sort of tasks and have some sort of control of my own success by doing a research-based degree. Damo.
Yeah, my argument to that is, so what is worse? Spending 3 years of your life and $30,000+ if you're doing a master's by coursework, obviously honours and master PhD are a little bit different, to gain some additional theoretical skills and maybe write a research paper that collects some dust on your desk. Completing an internship that isn't quite right but exposes you to a plethora of applied practitioners and opportunities. It expands your real-world skills. And the thing about an internship is, if it's not the right fit for you, you can leave it after a couple of months. You don't have to be committed to a 3-year PhD paper or research project that can go on and on and on. If you're not liking a research paper or a PhD, you're stuck there, especially if you're on funding and things like that. So I know what I'd be doing if I wanted to work in an applied sports science industry. I'd be going down the internship pathway.
See, it's interesting. So now we've finished the arguments, Darren. But what I have trouble agreeing with and conceptualizing is, even if you go work at these good institutions with these good practitioners, some of these practitioners look very good on Twitter and their bios look very good and they've done all these things, but they don't tend to help you out too much as well. So sometimes, this is not everyone. I'm sure there's plenty of good internships out there, but there's also plenty of bad ones at good places with good practitioners because they look good. And there's a lot of people who have fallen down the trap of going to particular places because it looks good on a resume, but you don't actually get anything out of it. And I think that's one of the massive pitfalls that surround internships within this industry. Do you agree?
I think you have to do your due diligence. It's like a job. You don't just sign up to an internship without doing your research. You got to talk to people that have been there before, and been through the experience and see what they got out of it. When you're at this point, so I think this is a little bit different to an undergraduate internship. We're talking about once you've graduated from a degree and you're looking to get yourself in the industry. So you should already have experience. You should already know the scene a little bit and understand what's out there. So you're not just going in and doing your entry-level internship. You should have some skills under your belt here. So this concern about jumping into things with, people that might not be right for you, if you've done the right amount of research and you know who you're getting in with, it shouldn't be an issue. And again, it's an internship. It's not a lock-in contract. So if you find that it's not the right fit for you, you can always pull out and go somewhere else. It's okay to be selective. When you're in a PhD, it's a lot harder to get yourself out of it once you're embedded in it.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. But there's also barely a distinction between a graduate internship in this industry and a normal internship as well. Because what tends to happen is you either get paid full-time, part-time, or it's an internship. There's not really balances between graduate internships and normal internships, particularly at the elite level. There might be a little bit of difference at the sub-elite level, but there's no real great difference between what internships actually are. And at least if you're doing a PhD, particularly in Australia, 90% of the people are actually getting paid for it as well. So, and it's tax-free. So there's a few other things there that sort of go into this process. So it's not cut and dry, no matter what way you look at it. But there are some of these things need to be taken in consideration as well, I reckon. But
do you think the PhD prepares you for a career in the applied setting, or is it more setting you up for work in academia? Because I think there's a clear line there, because it's the same as what you're saying about internships. There's no clear thing. With PhDs, it's the same. You might be doing a PhD program that's very theoretical based. So I looked at doing one which was embedded with Cricket Australia, you'd think you'd get to actually see some cricket or be involved in that. Literally, the PhD was to sit in a computer lab and crunch 50,000 data points for 3 years. So where's the applied context in that? Yeah, I'm going to provide a report, but you're not actually going to be involved in the process of data collection, interacting with people that work in the industry. So, and I know of plenty of people that are doing those types of PhDs where it's more that you spend your time in a lab and you don't actually interact with applied practitioners. So I think you can say the same thing about PhDs as these internships, is there's, you know, no real guarantee that you're going to get that applied setting that you're talking about. You're lucky because you're in an embedded PhD where you get to actually work at an organization, but a lot of these PhDs aren't like that.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. But then I guess it helps if you're getting paid as well and not just completely exploited by some of these organizations in an unpaid internship. But again, that's a different point. So how did you see the last round there, Sean?
Yeah, very good, boys. Very good. I did enjoy the back and forth there at the end, particularly. It's hard because I think that, as you sort of said, Rob, you don't really know what's going to be a bad internship until you actually get into it. So there are some organizations or companies out there that sort of give this persona that they're the kings, but you sort of get in there and you quickly learn that that's not really the case, and it's not as glamorous as it looks on their social media platforms. In saying that, the opposite is also true. Like, you can find there are some that hold up, and I've sort of seen both sides of that, where I've done internships where I haven't really got much out of it, and you think, yeah, this is going to be awesome, and then it's pretty boring. But then there are some as well where you're embedded from day one. They get you involved, they actually give you a little bit of responsibility, and by the end of it, you sort of feel pretty prepared for what will be hopefully some sort of paid employment.
Hopefully, being the key word.
Well, I mean, that's with anything. It's going to be hopefully at the end of a research or a PhD as well. Like,
yeah, but at least you're getting paid during it.
Yeah, that's true.
But you get paid more to stack shelves at bloody Coles full time than you do for a PhD. So
depends where you go, I guess. It depends. Tax free. Depends what. It depends if you start your own athletic performance brand as well on the side, and then you see then the money's just then the money's coming in. So,
and yeah, I guess there's always going to be that argument of what makes you more prepared for that employment in a practical setting. And I think that for me, it's always probably going to be the internships, but at the same time, if you do a bad internship, then you're sort of stuck back at square one where you were originally. So it's tough. As Damo said, you got to do your due diligence and sort of work that out as best you can. Obviously, it's not going to be a perfect process. But I guess getting back to the argument, the debate here, I think the winner of this TRIAX180 is Damo. So it's hard, Rob, because going into this, Rob, I did want to give you the win.
And thanks to Sean, that's all we have time for today. So we appreciate that.
Well, I did want to give you the win because you put forward some very good arguments, but I think just it's my own subjective views aren't helping here. But for me, it goes back to I think you get more out of that real world experience of the internship. If you can find a good internship that develops you and puts time into you and educates you, then I think you get a lot more out of that than research where you're not as exposed to that. And in saying that, like with you, Rob, like you obviously get that experience with your PhD, but I think Damo raised the point that there are a lot of PhDs where you don't necessarily get that. So again, it's a sort of about picking and choosing what is going to be a good fit for you. But I think ultimately the internships are probably going to provide you with more value than the research degree.
Yeah, I just want to add one last thing there as well. So my argument's a little bit hypocritical because obviously I did a master's degree by coursework that also had a research component, which I've published as well. So I have been on both sides of that as well, like Sean. But I think the key thing was that I was doing that while working in a high performance environment and team. So I was able to sort of practically apply what I was learning and figure out what was sort of fluff in the content and what actually added value in an applied setting. So I think both options are good, but if you're going to do that postgraduate studies, I think picking the right one, like Rob, you're quite fortunate that you're in an applied setting where you get to actually see your research come through and see it actually happen. And that was the same for me. You actually got to use the skills that you were learning about. And I've since done that in roles afterwards where my research was in cricket fast bowling and actually seeing it on the ground. That's quite valuable, and I think that's a great opportunity. So if you can do a PhD that does have that practical component, you're getting bang for your buck there. You're essentially doing a paid internship while also getting a research paper. So if you were going to do something, I think that'd probably be the best option if you want to get the best of both worlds.
All right, well, there's another episode of 180 done and dusted. Unfortunately, I was on the losing side of it today, which is unfortunate, and I can't wait for the investigation to come out as to why I got dutted again. But what can you do? The fan vote is more important to me anyway, so if you feel like I've been robbed, which is probably the majority of the public out there, then please let me know and message me privately as well to boost my confidence. That would be great. So yeah, but if you have liked the episode, there's plenty more where that came from, so you can check out the previous episodes we've got, and also some of the other content we have in relation to team sport performance. So MAS, yo-yos, sports tech, it's all there, and we've got plenty more in the upcoming weeks as well. So if you can consider subscribing and liking to the channel, that would mean a lot. Otherwise, you can find us on what forum, Sean?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Search for TRIAX Performance. You'll find us on there. Or as well, actually, I don't think we've ever plugged this before, but we are also on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So if you are sort of roaming around or browsing on that platform and find any of our stuff interesting, we do post a fair bit on LinkedIn as well. So check us out on there.
Yeah,
I also hear Rob's on Tinder with his TRIAX shirt on, so you can check that one out as well.
Oh
boy. Yeah, boy, that's where the extra small T-shirt went to, boy. Sorry, I stole that one. So I just put that in the dryer a couple of times and did a few benchies. So I've lost my train of thought. That's good. And then also the old school way demo.
Yeah, so email is admin@triaxperformance.com, and our website is triaxperformance.com. Beautiful.
Well, so our next topic, which will be next week, is about foam rolling, actually. So we're going to talk about all things foam rolling and how that may improve or maybe doesn't improve performance as well. So I'm not sure who the competitors will be for next week. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be you two? I think I must be out, am I? Or is it me versus Shawnee?
Yeah. I think you'll be at court for the Royal Commission into this loss, mate. So I think you might have to miss out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe you two can go at it again. I always like being referee. So we'll go Damon and Sean on the foam rollers next week. So make sure you tune into that. But until next time, we'll see you later from TRIAX Performance.